What is up, everyone? Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today, we have an amazing interview with Anisha Chandra, a student at UCLA.
What's up, Anisha? Welcome to our YouTube channel. So we'll start out with if you can introduce yourself, where you go to school, and what major you're studying.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Anisha, like I said, and I go to UCLA and I'm studying human biology and society.
Cool. Before we start the college portion of the interview, we or our viewers would like to get a sense of what you were like in high school. So, what activities did you do in high school, and what classes did you enjoy, and what was your overall experience at Homestead?
Yeah, so I think in high school, I did a lot of things, but I liked doing that. So I was a little involved in sports, I was a little involved in clubs, had a lot of variety in there, and I liked my classes for the most part there. Um, I feel like Homestead overall had a nice balance of both people and the the balance of work and extracurriculars and like other things and being social and all that. I feel like it was a pretty well-rounded school overall.
Cool. Now we're gonna jump into kind of the academic section. So I'll start off with like at UCLA, right? So for your major, have you taken any major required classes or has it been mostly GEs? And what have your experiences been like with classes at UCLA?
Yeah, so for my major, you have to apply at the end of 2 years, your second year. So there are like a list of some classes that I have to take before applying. So I've mostly just been doing that. There are some classes that are the same with between like all life sciences majors. So I've been doing that. But then also for my major, there are like a couple extra classes I need to take. So I've been taking those too. And other than that, I've also taken like some GEs, but I'd say most of it is for the first year is prereqs. And so I am pre-med, so a lot of those classes. And other than that, I think I've had at least one or two classes every quarter that was a little different from like your usual chemistry, bio, math stuff. Um, so I think with prereqs, like I'm just gonna be honest, they can be pretty dry. Like a lot of the time, they're just like giant lectures with 200 to 300 people, and I feel like the professors do a good job of making sure that there's a lot of resources available to the class because they know that they can't reach like 300 people. But yeah, so one thing I found really useful is trying to vary up my schedule a little bit this first year, but just having like at least one other class to kind of get my mind off of just to like have a different setting from those really big prereq classes.
Is there a particular reason why you chose UCLA?
Yeah, so um, I feel like I always liked UCLA. I visited once in my junior year, so I liked the vibe and everything. I felt like there were a lot of opportunities there, and whatever. Like the thing that scared me most about it at first was the size, and like that still scared me as even after I committed. But ultimately, I just committed because I was making pro and con lists for every school, and I feel like the price I paid in state was kind of a big driving factor for me because I felt like all the schools I was choosing between, there were pros and cons for all of them. And yeah, ultimately it came down to the price, but I'm pretty happy with how it ended up playing out. Um, and yeah.
Cool. So in your classes so far, I'll kind of split it into two categories. So your prereq classes, you already talked about. It was kind of a little dry. I mean, that is true with a lot of pre-meds. You got to get through those first 2 years of prereq classes. But some of those other classes that you were mentioning that you take every quarter to balance out your schedule, what have those classes been like, and what are some examples of those classes that you've taken?
Yeah, so I'd say my favorite class this year. So it is a requirement for my major, like one of the options I could take to fulfill that requirement, but it's basically called a cluster, and these are specific to freshmen. So you take the same class basically for a whole year, and it is still a big class, like 200 people. But so the topic that we study is biotech and society. And it's honestly, like in my experience, it's been a lot less on the biotech side and a lot more on the society side. So I really like how interdisciplinary it is and how you really look at lots of different perspectives and really talk about lots of topics that I haven't really been exposed to before, like with the prereqs and stuff. Like, you know what chemistry is, you know what biology is, but this was a little different. So that was pretty cool. And in that class, you have like a team of professors instead of just one professor. So each professor kind of brings their own perspective and own background to whatever lecture they teach. And yeah, and so then Some other classes I've taken, the seminars that I talked about. So UCLA has these things called Fiat Luxes that are 1 unit pass, no pass classes. So those are, you just take them for fun. But I feel like right now I'm taking 2 just because I can. And so right now I'm taking one about coronavirus. And it's taught by a public health epidemiologist who like served as international directors for WHO and something for the CDC. And so he's really old too, and he has a lot of experience. And these are just like 20 people, so you get a lot more time to interact with your classmates and professor and like get to know everyone. They don't happen as frequently because they're only 1 unit, but they're still fun and really low pressure, not any homework, just like to learn. And then I also took one in my first quarter about meditation. So that was cool. We just went in every week and meditated. And yeah.
Obviously, with those smaller classes, you probably have a better or closer relationship, I guess, with your peers and the professor. But in the larger prereq classes like the Chem Bio and Math, do you feel like you're interacting with the professor? Or I don't know if you guys have a TA or a graduate student that kind of manages smaller discussion sections. So how do those bigger classes work?
Yeah, so I think with the bigger classes, um, there is only one professor for a lot of students, but I feel like the professors, they do give you a lot of opportunities to get to know them. So if you really are interested in getting to know a particular professor, just go to their office hours. But one thing I will say about their office hours is during the weeks of midterms and finals, if you're trying to get to know your professor, probably not the best time to go. But if you go like at a time when nothing much is really going on in class test wise, then chances are you'll be like one of a few people. So it's really up to you. And yeah, so every class has a discussion section usually, and that's with a TA with maybe like 20, 25 students. I'd say discussion sections, they kind of vary, like how good they are, in my opinion. It really depends on the TA and how they set up the class. Like I've had some discussion sections that are absolutely useless, and then I've had some that the TA is really good and they could probably be a professor if they wanted. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what has the freshman experience been like so far in terms of like advising? Like, is there a lot of input that you're getting in terms of what classes to take? And that could be like professional advising or maybe from like upperclassmen mentors that you may have. Is there a good relationship at UCLA?
Yeah, I feel like with regard to advising on what classes to take, it's pretty good. We have a college academic advising building somewhere, and you just go there. You can talk to them. You can either schedule an appointment or do a walk-in appointment. So I remember one time I scheduled an appointment, and it was just like 30 minutes, and some advisor who kind of knew a little bit about my major helped me make a 4-year plan. And you can also just do drop-ins and just walk to the window and like ask them any questions you have, and that's basically like any time of the day, so you can do it between classes and stuff. And then as for upperclassmen advising, yeah, I think that's really helpful too. Like if you know upperclassmen and any activities you're in and stuff like that, you can just ask them. And especially for first and second years, like a lot of it is just taking prereqs, so it's pretty similar for everyone. um, and so chances are you'll probably know someone who's taking those exact same classes and has something to say about what how you should schedule them on your 4-year plan.
How would you describe the overall student culture surrounding academics? Are they like competitive? Does it kind of dominate your life? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so I feel like in my experience, it's been pretty collaborative, but I feel like it probably could be competitive. Like I feel like my experience is kind of dominated by just the 10 people I talk to in my study group and stuff. So we work together really well. I don't know about, because lectures are pretty big. There's 300 people. I'm pretty sure somewhere in there is some competition. So it really depends on who you surround yourself with. But yeah, like with my friends and I, we study together. We get advice from each other about like what to join. Maybe if we're writing an essay, we'll like peer edit and stuff like that.
Cool. And kind of piggybacking off that question, do you feel like I know you from high school and I know some of the classes that you've taken in high school. Do you think that's prepared you well for some of those core classes like bio and math and chemistry in college?
Yes, I think it helps so much. Like the first 2 quarters, I'd say the hardest classes for most first years who are life sciences majors are like chemistry and stuff. So I feel like the background I got in chemistry from Homestead was so helpful, and it like a lot of students their high schools don't have as strong of like AP classes and stuff, and teachers who really like get the material down. And so I feel like a lot of people did struggle, and the college classes have been a little harder for me too than Homestead, but Homestead literally helped so much in preparing for them.
Do you find that you spend a lot of time doing homework?
I feel like not really homework, but more just studying. So it really depends on how I schedule it for each class. So I feel like most of my classes don't really assign a lot of homework. Like for chemistry, for example, I literally have to turn in 5 problems every week. That takes maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes. So not really homework, but just having that self-discipline to schedule out what you should be doing every week to make sure that you are doing more than the minimum 5 problems a week.
If you don't know how to do a problem, who do you go to for help?
Yeah, so a lot of the giant classes that I mentioned, they have a lot of resources. So they'll have a bunch of TAs, they'll have a bunch of undergraduate learning assistants, they'll even have like problem solving sessions, review sessions. And so if you don't want to go to the professor's office hours because you're worried that like too many people will be there and you won't really get the help you need, all the TAs have their own office hours and you can go to any of them, whether they're your TA or not. And then you can go to like peer learning sessions. And all the TAs have like their own review sessions too. So yeah, there really are a lot of avenues for help. And also all the classes have like some giant chat or like some forum or something where you can post questions and someone will probably answer.
Have you gotten the chance to speak with any of your professors?
Yeah, so I went to a few of my professors' office hours. I remember one time I was like the only person there. Honestly, she wasn't a very good professor, so I can see why. Um, but for another one of my classes, one thing they do is they have lunch office hours. So it's for the cluster I talked about with like 4 different professors. So they just book a room in one of the dining halls and you just go there and eat with your professors, talk about the readings for the week. So that's pretty cool.
And the second question I have is about the curve. So a lot of high school students kind of hear about this, the curve in college life, and they're worried that if they go to like a really like prestigious or competitive university that they might not do so well on the curve. You hear a lot of things about grade deflation and things like that. So what's your experience with that at UCLA?
Yeah, so one thing I know about that is that I don't think there's any class that will ever curve down. So like if you earned a particular grade, it is never going to be lower than the percentage you got. The curve can only help you basically. And I guess another thing is that maybe a lot of classes, they do try to have a particular percent of A's and B's and stuff, but I don't know if it's not that they try to have it, it's just that's how it ends up playing out. So it's, yeah, so like every class has its own typical grade distribution, but whatever grade you earn, that will probably be your grade. Like a curve is not going to change that.
What's your favorite class that you've taken so far?
Probably the cluster I mentioned. And because I took it to know if I really wanted to continue with my major, because it was one of like the bigger prereqs for my major, the one that's like emphasized more. So yeah, like when I knew I enjoyed that class, I kind of felt more reassured about my choice in my major because and like talking to upperclassmen and stuff about it too. Yeah, it just helped me feel more reassured in my choice and excited about when I get to take upper divs eventually.
What in particular
Yeah.
did you really like about it?
Yeah, so I think what I like about it is a lot of the topics, um, they're kind of like right up my alley. Like I'm really into nutrition and sustainability and things like that. So they really talk about everything. Like we've discussed the gut microbiome. We spent 6 weeks on debating GMOs. That was kind of fun. Kind of also not because they took so long. And then one time we read a book. It was like just like your typical novel, and when I was reading it, I had no idea how they were going to connect it to biotechnology. But then they made the case that the whole book was about epigenetics. And I didn't really think about that when I was reading it, but the connection was really cool. So yeah, I guess I like the unexpected connections that they make between like science and humanities.
Cool. I think that's it for the academic section. So Sean, are you good to move on?
Yeah,
Sean's looking.
yeah. I think we're good. We can move on. Yeah.
All right. So this is kind of piggybacking off that section. This section is about research, internship, and study abroad opportunities. So let's start with research opportunities. have you had a chance, or are you interested in getting involved in research? And UCLA is such a big research school, so do you feel like there are opportunities for undergraduates to get involved with a research topic that they may like?
Yes, so I am currently involved in research. I joined a lab about the gut microbiome in at the beginning of winter quarter. So I've been doing that ever since and really like it. And I guess the process of getting research, I think the hardest part of it was just how many opportunities there were. So yeah, I will say that UCLA really has a lot of opportunities to research. Like whatever you want to research, there's probably someone who does it. And yeah, so the hardest part was just looking through all the lab websites and writing all those emails and waiting for responses. But I like with the sheer number of opportunities, like if you put the effort to really decide what exactly you're interested in and just like shoot your shot, email the professor, send the follow-up emails, like you'll eventually get where you want to. And then also there's an undergraduate research center, so they sometimes have presentations about how to get research. And I haven't really like been involved with the research center too much, but I'm sure they probably have some way to schedule individual appointments.
And the research you're doing with the gut microbiome, it's like a wet lab type thing.
Yeah, it is. Mhm.
Okay, okay, cool. We're gonna move on to like internship opportunities now. So is that something you're looking into? I know a lot of undergraduate students look for summer internships or even like co-ops if that's offered at their school. So how does that process of recruitment and getting an internship work at UCLA?
So I literally don't know anything about internships. So I don't know if I can really answer that.
That's
But I'm
okay.
sure like people in the School of Engineering and like studying business and stuff probably do know something about that. I just do
Uh,
not.
Is there
that's
a
cool.
professional environment at all, though? Do you feel like there's people who are like trying to go investment banking or consulting?
Um, I'm not totally sure. I know one person in a consulting club, and I feel like I've heard like, library conversations about people talking about applying to a consulting club. Like the one person I know in a consulting club, she told me that there was a whole week of recruitment where they had to go every single day and talk to all the members, and to finally get in, she had to give a 20-minute presentation about something. So it seemed pretty intense. Yeah.
Are you interested in study abroad?
Yeah, so that was something I was looking into at some point. And one downside is like they say that whatever major you are, you can
Yeah.
definitely study abroad. And that's probably true, but it's not exactly easy to put in your schedule because you don't want to just study abroad for no reason, right? Like you want to be really into what you're studying abroad for. Like I guess some people take GEs abroad. I don't really know if I want to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't want to do that. That doesn't exactly sound the most exciting. But then like for my major, for example, some people do physics abroad. So it'll be like a 8-week program in Ireland, I believe, where they just knock out all 3 physics classes. So 3/4 of physics in 8 weeks. So basically you're just doing physics all the time, but at least you're in Ireland. And so yeah, I think like humanities majors probably have great study abroad things going on. But for me, if you want to study abroad, your best shot is to have a minor that has a study abroad program. So like
Okay.
some examples that I can think of would be maybe Spanish or another language or global health. So if you have any of those minors, good for you. You can study abroad.
Is that something you're interested in doing or looked into, like adding major minor combo?
Yeah, I guess I'm still pretty open to whatever minor I eventually choose. I probably will choose something, but I'm not sure if what I choose is going to have like a study
Uh,
abroad program established for it.
Is it common to study abroad at UCLA?
I think it's fairly common for some majors and pretty uncommon for others. Like I haven't really heard of engineering students studying abroad, for example. And yeah, so like usually we call all the STEM majors South Campus and all the other majors like North Campus. So North Campus majors probably have a much easier time studying abroad. So I've known the people I know who have studied abroad. One of them is a Spanish major. One of them is a international development major. And then the people who have done like the physics thing.
cool. Sean, anything else?
That's all for me.
All right. So this next category is like personal. So this is a bit more fun, less dry, I think. So let's start with like what a typical weekday is like for you. So, and I know for you personally, you're really active in terms of like fitness, in terms of journaling, and you even run an Instagram page. So how do you fit that all into your weekday?
Yeah, so um, I prefer starting the day early and then like ending it kind of early and kind of slower. So like I'll do most of my so in the morning, sometimes I'll go for a run if I'm not free in the afternoon or something. But usually I start the day off waking up around like 7ish, and then I go to breakfast with my friends at around 8. Most of us have class at 9. Sometimes I have class at 9. Sometimes I have class at like 10 or 11. And then usually I stay on campus for all my classes. This quarter, like winter quarter, a lot of the times I had like a lot of back-to-back classes, which I kind of like because then I only have to walk to campus once. And so I'll stay on campus. And then when I come back, I'd say most of my classes finished around maybe 3ish. And um, so I would come back and I'm part of the running club. So if I didn't run in the morning, then I'll run with them around 4. And then it really depends from day to day. Like sometimes I'll have club meetings on certain evenings and not on other evenings. Sometimes I'll go to my lab during the day on certain days, but not on other days. And then I'll have dinner at around 6:30, and then I just do homework, and then I sleep.
How many like hours of sleep do you get?
I shoot for 7.5 to 8. Sometimes it goes a little under, but I don't think I've slept less than 7 hours in a while.
That's pretty
So it's
good.
pretty good.
What surprised you about like campus life at UCLA? And actually, before that, you were talking about like going on campus for class. So does that mean your housing is off campus?
So it's not off campus, it's on campus, but it's not exactly like super well integrated to campus. Like you can't just get up, walk 10 seconds and get to class unless your class is near the what are those called? Residence halls? Yeah.
Residence hall, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I did have one class that was near the residence halls, so that was nice. But most of the time, yeah, you have to walk like a good 10 minutes if you're fast, but on average, like save 15 minutes to get to class. And yeah, one thing that surprised me about UCLA was how much walking there is. There's so many stairs, so many hills. Like I literally feel like I go to Disneyland every day. Like, you know how when you go to Disneyland, you get there around 8 a.m., you leave like when it closes, and then you look at, like, if you have a watch, I think I went to Disneyland maybe the summer before going to UCLA, and I got like 30,000 steps just from standing in line. Yeah, a lot of the times at UCLA, that just happens. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a school for fit people, is what you're saying.
It's a school for walkers.
Do people
Nice.
ride electric
So much
scooters?
walking.
Do people ride electric scooters?
Oh yeah, they do have those everywhere. I haven't done it, but like usually it's frowned upon to ride the electric scooters on campus because people are walking. You don't want to just scooter by and like crash into people walking. But I think people do it like on the roads if they're like, really in a rush to get to class. I haven't done it yet, but I really should. That might reduce my step count because it can get tiring. Like the first few weeks, I remember I was so tired, but then eventually I got used to it. So now I've just accepted that my watch is going to have a lot of steps, and yeah.
Cool. Anything that you'd like to change about UCLA?
Yeah. So, oh, and another thing I wanted to mention for, I guess like this goes hand in hand with your previous questions about what surprised me. I think a lot of the social events, like even the really low key social events, involve alcohol, and that's like I know that's a college thing, but I feel like it's a little like you. I personally think you don't need that to have fun, and especially if it's only a social of like 10 people. Yeah.
So would you say it's been hard socially, like to get involved in like activities or like social events that don't involve drinking?
I don't think it's hard. No, I think
Okay.
it's like a thing that's there, but it's not overwhelming at all.
Okay.
Like you'll definitely find people who aren't into that or people who are into that, and like whatever mood you're in, just go with that, I guess. Um, but yeah, there's like a lot of variety of communities you can join, and like it takes some experimentation to find your community, but uh, it's not like an overwhelming presence or anything.
How did you go about experimenting?
Yeah, so I think at the beginning, I mostly stuck to the only people I knew were my roommates. So I stuck to them for like a couple weeks. And then I started joining clubs. And so ended up joining 2 clubs. And then I met one person in one of the clubs, like on the very first day, and then I became friends with her. And then she introduced me to one of her friends. So now we're all kind of just friends with each other. And then I met, and then like for clubs in general, like they'll just have socials, they'll have meetings. And so that has been a good, like two good communities for me to join. I think one thing that was hard socially was that you meet a lot of people in different places. And so you'll know like one person from here and one person from there and one person from there. And like when you, a big part of social life for me has just been like going to the dining hall and eating with my friends. And so at the beginning, when I tried to like figure out who I would eat with at each time, I would just like, it was hard to get around to all those people I met from different places. But then eventually I decided to introduce them to each other. So now it's a lot easier.
You're the master organizer of friend groups.
I got that down.
Nice. What would be your advice that you would give to a freshman or even like a high school senior who's wanting to go to UCLA?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing would be don't be too afraid of the size of the school. Like it feels kind of overwhelming at the beginning. Like I remember when I first moved in and I saw all those people and it was just like a lot of people. But I feel like once you just know a few people, you'll eventually know even more people. And then eventually like you'll be walking through campus and you'll see familiar faces. Like even if you don't know them well, you'll see familiar faces. And I feel like that makes it a lot smaller. And also, another piece of advice would be to take things at your own pace. I feel like that's one thing I really have enjoyed at UCLA so far. I feel like everyone is kind of doing their own thing and isn't feeling like super pressured to do more than they're comfortable with. At least that's what I've sensed so far. So yeah, like there's people join clubs when they're in their second year, third year. They decide to do research, whatever they want. So it's really up to you to like just go with your own flow.
What's your favorite spot that you've kind of have other than your dorm for studying? Is there a spot, or do most people kind of study in their dorms in the library?
Yeah, so for studying, one place we have that's pretty nice is called the study. And it's on, like, so I told you about how you have to walk a little to get to your classes on campus, and that's where the library is and a lot of good study spots. And then there's the hill, which is what we call all the residence hall areas and like where the dining halls are and stuff. So the study is like in one corner of the hill, and there you can study and eat at the same time, which is pretty cool. But I think one place I really enjoy, I don't want to reveal the name because it's kind of a secret, but I go to this, it's on the hill and it's this little meditation room. I don't meditate there, but I have it once, but I just, cause people don't really know about it. So I just go in, make it it's like a nice place, has some couches. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that's like an Anisha spot. No one else knows about
Yeah,
that.
I'm not saying the name.
It's okay. You don't have to say the name. All right, Sean, you good on personal?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Take it away then.
Okay. So you mentioned like the dorm that you live in is kind of on the outskirts of campus. What is that like? Or like what is the dorm life like in general?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different housing styles at UCLA. So my dorm is one of the closest to campus, which is pretty nice because I get to walk a little bit less. And it so all the dorms have a lot of schools have like just doubles, so two people in a dorm, but for the most part we have triples. And like if you want a double, you might be able to get one in your second year. And then there are different room styles. So I lived in a Plaza Private this year, so it was a little bigger than a classic triple, and it also had a private bathroom in it. So me and my two roommates, our bathroom's just right in the dorm. And one difference that I'll note between the plazas and classics is that classics overall they're more social because you have to like go outside and to the bathroom and stuff. And plazas, you can still meet people on your floor. Like for example, our RAs organize a lot of events, probably once a week. So things like game night, movie nights, karaoke. Not everyone participates because my floor is slightly less social than the average floor, I think. So on my floor, there might be like close to 80-ish people, but I know maybe 8 people. But I know other floors, they have a lot more going on and they're like more of a group. So yeah, I'm not sure if I regret choosing a Plaza Private. Next year I'm living in a different style, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Are you sticking with the same roommates?
So one of my roommates is going to be the same, and then another one of my friends.
Is the floor all freshmen?
So my floor is maybe 50% freshmen and then 50% second years and transfers. So it's kind of a mix. But if you're a freshman who's on a classic triple floor, then chances are your floor will be mostly freshmen.
How does choosing dorms work?
Yeah, so I think you just the first part would be like figuring out who your roommates are, or if you want to go random, and then you would rank your preferences online, and then you just kind of get a random assignment based on your preferences. For choosing, I don't exactly remember how we chose our dorm in for first year, but for choosing our dorms for next year, you have like a sign up time, and one nice part about choosing a dorm as a second year is that you can like be in part of a roommate group. So um, 5 other people and you can be like in the same group, so that all of 6 of you will be on the same floor. So that way you'll know more people on your floor, and you'll be assured that you have friends on your floor. So that's nice. Um, and yeah, that's all I can say about choosing dorms.
What are the most
Are
popular
there?
ones?
Oh yeah,
The
sure.
most popular dorms. So second years have preference priority over first years for choosing the dorms. So Sproul, Landing, and Cove are the most popular dorms because they're like a central location on campus, on the hill, I mean, and pretty close to campus and pretty close to everything else on the hill. And a lot of the freshmen, though, are in Hedrick because, yeah, freshmen kind of get last priority, right? So if you're in a classic triple, chances are you'll probably be in Hedrick. That's at the very top of the hill. It is a hike. But since I was in a plaza this year, there's only like one area for plazas. And so that part is pretty close to campus.
You kind of talked about first year and second year. So does that mean in third and fourth year, like people move off campus into apartments, or like are they in separate housing? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'd say so UCLA guarantees housing for the first 3 years. You might even be able to get one as a fourth year. I'm not completely sure, but most people move off after their second year. I think mostly just because apartments cost less and they're pretty nice. And so there are still some third years who live on the hill. I think it's really up to their preference because with apartments you definitely have to be a little more independent, and like cook for yourself sometimes. But from what I've heard, in the process of choosing apartments, at least, like it's some people, they go for university apartments, so that you just like and apply for housing like the same way that I would apply for housing for a dorm. But and those apartments are slightly closer to campus too, and you don't have to like go through the hassle of signing a separate lease and stuff like that. But if you don't get those, then you have to like kind of just apartment hunt.
Did you choose your roommates randomly?
I did not, but kind of did, because like Facebook, I found them on the Facebook group. Um, and so basically I just posted and let people message me, and then eventually we just finalized it like that. So like it's not completely random, but it kind of is random because you don't really know them from a Facebook post and like a
I
little
find it so
10-minute
weird.
Facebook chat.
That's so weird to like post on Facebook and
I know. I thought it was really weird because it felt like in that Facebook group, there were maybe 6,000, 7,000 people, right? And so that's a lot of posts. Like at first, I was trying to find roommates without posting myself. But I realized that there were just so many posts and I was being so selective with my choices. I was like, oh, what if I find a better person? And then I was like, no, I'm just going to post myself and whoever wants to message me can. And then left it at that.
it's like dating.
Honestly, yeah, yeah, everyone had like a caption with their interests, and yeah, it was literally Tinder on Facebook for roommates.
Oh my gosh.
There have been any cases of people not getting housing, like first year students or even like second year students after applying?
I don't think so because they guarantee housing for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are cases of not getting what you want. So I have a friend who actually wanted a classic triple, but she ended up in a plaza for her first year because they just didn't have enough of those.
Cool. Let's see here. In case of conflict, if you don't like your roommate and the Facebook Tinder didn't work out well, how do you switch, or can you switch into the school year?
So I don't really know, but I think you can do a mutual roommate swap. So if you know someone else who will switch with you, then I'm sure you can probably organize that switch. or if you really didn't want to live with your roommates, you could move into a single. I think they have like some of those, but it's really expensive, so I don't know why you would do that. Yeah.
At the dining halls, I've heard many amazing stories about UCLA dining halls. How is the food? How is the variety? And yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So this is a topic I'm very interested in talking about. The dining halls are honestly really great. I haven't gotten bored of the food at all.
Oh,
They have a lot of different options. And each dining hall kind of has its own niche. So the one I like the most, it's like known for being the healthy dining hall, but also I think it's the best one actually. Like even if you remove the healthy part of it, it's still like it brings a lot of variety. And then there's one for Asian inspired food, and there's one for like Mediterranean/Italian food, and then there's one for like classic. Honestly, it's just junk food. Like they have flaming hot Cheeto pizza there, but then they also have like a little. They have some good things there too, and then they have a lot of takeout places. They have this one place that's a takeout place with like a Mexican side and an Asian side. But yeah, they do a really good job of keeping things fresh, changing the menu a lot. And if you get bored of one dining hall, you can go to the next one. I know they even have accommodations for people who are gluten-free and stuff or have allergies. We have big buckets of avocados every day. That's pretty
big
nice.
like avocados, just not like.
Like mashed avocados.
Oh,
So like you can make toast every single day.
wow.
And they have like a lot of things that I'd never thought of and honestly like inspire some of my cooking.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think both Sean and I have had very different experiences at our dining hall. But that's good. That is good that there's a lot of options. So it works on swipes, and you can kind of swipe at any of the dining halls. Is that how it, like meal plans work?
Yeah, so and there are two plans, I guess. Like one is you can get one meal in each meal period, and then another one, the one I have, is you can roll over your swipe. So if you only use two swipes on one day, the swipe you didn't use rolls over, and you can use it anytime at the quarter. And you can sell swipes. So I had a lot of
Whoa.
swipes left over in first quarter because, like, you know, when you go out to eat and stuff like that. So I sold like 20 swipes.
Like you just sell it to like another person?
Yeah, it's like there's a whole Facebook group for selling swipes.
Wow.
One time I swiped in 10 people.
Wow. Wow. That is, you're very kind.
I'm really in the
That's just
business.
making money off of this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Or just getting the money that I paid back.
That's true. Recovering your investment.
Yes.
How's the laundry situation at the dorms? Is there one per residence hall, one per floor? Are they clean?
So it depends on the number of laundry machines, at least depends on the number of rooms in the building. So like a 10-story building is going to have a lot more than my 4-story building. Honestly, I wish they had more machines, but also it's never really been a problem for me personally because I always do laundry at the time when I know nobody else is doing laundry. Like no one's going to be up at Wednesday, 7 a.m. doing laundry. So I got that down. But then sometimes some of the machines are kind of janky and you'll use the dryer and your clothes are still really wet. I know my roommates have had that problem a few times, but it's fine. It's clean enough. Yeah.
You use swipes to pay for laundry, or is it like you don't pay really?
So on our Bruin cards that we use for basically everything, like meals and all that, you'll have money on the card, and you just like deposit it online, and then you just use that.
Cool. Sean?
That's all I have.
All right. Next topic, campus culture and the surrounding area. So first, like where is UCLA? Like I hear a lot about like, oh, USC is in the bad part of LA and UCLA is in the good part of LA. So like, is it near downtown? What's the geography like?
Yeah, so UCLA is in a pretty nice part of LA. It's in a suburb called Westwood, and it's kind of between Bel Air and Beverly Hills. So it's in a pretty upscale part of LA. And USC is actually near downtown LA, so like they're in they're in the city. We're in like the suburbs that's on the outskirts of the city, kind of. And so we're close to the beach, so 5 miles from Santa Monica and Venice and places like that. And then Beverly Hills is maybe 2 to 3 miles away from campus. And then our immediate surroundings is just like downtown Westwood, and right next to UCLA is Bel Air and all the big houses. So if you're really into big houses, there's no shortage of looking at that.
How would you
Nice.
describe the campus atmosphere?
Like the actual campus buildings and stuff like
In
that?
general, like what's the overall kind of vibe or energy that you
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So I feel like going into it, I saw it as a pretty laid back place. It's pretty sunny most of the time. Um, and yeah, I feel like it's kind of a mix of two vibes if I think about it. It's like on one hand, you see so many people walking places, it's like everyone has a sense of purpose and like a place to go. And then on the other hand, you'll see like people in hammocks, just chilling on a random Thursday afternoon. So yeah, I kind of have both of that, both of those.
Do students tend to hang out on campus or like off campus in like downtown Westwood, say?
Yeah, so I think it's a mix of both. On campus, I'd say like a lot of the activities people do, we'll have socials on campus, meetings on campus, um, and like frat parties and stuff that's kind of on campus too, and lots of events sometimes. Like for example, in the very first week that we had this thing called Bruin Bash, so that was like a little concert. Um, they have someone new playing every year, and sports games happen on campus, except for football, which is really weird. Yeah, it's odd. I don't think we have a football stadium, so I don't even know where the football team practices. But I've been to
Really?
basketball and gymnastics, so those are pretty fun. Um, and then off campus, there's a lot to do as well. Westwood, it's mostly just restaurants. There isn't, oh, and we have like a museum and some movie theaters. So that's nice. At the movie theaters, sometimes they'll have movie premieres. I've never been lucky enough to catch one of those. I don't think it's happened recently either. But oh yeah, and another thing on campus is sometimes they'll have movie screenings, like early movie screenings. So I know they played, like for example, Little Women was a movie I wanted to see, and they played that like 2 weeks before it released. I didn't know about it and didn't go, and found out about it later. But it's good to know that that is an option. And I personally really like going off campus stuff because there's so much around and it's pretty easy to get to. Like there are a lot of things just to do in a 3 to 5 mile radius, and if you want to, I have a friend with a car, so it's really helpful actually because then we can go a little further.
So is it like, is there a bus system or like you need to find someone with a car to kind of take you to those places?
So there is a bus system. I've actually used it a few times. It's kind of slow. Like in a car, you can usually get to Santa Monica in 15 minutes. In a bus, it'll probably take 35-ish minutes, with some extra walking probably from like the bus stop to wherever you need to go. But yeah, the bus is it's very affordable at least. Like it's only $1 and you can go pretty far for $1. But yeah, and Ubers can be pretty good too, Ubers and Lyfts, if you split it between 4 people or however many you're going with.
you get the sense
How's
that
the,
there's a lot
oh,
of
sorry, Sean, go for it. Say it again, Sean.
you get the sense that there's a lot of things to do on campus.
I guess so. Like there's always something going on, which is nice, and you kind of have to look for some of the things though. Like for example, one time I was on the calendar online and I found out they have swing dancing workshops every Monday. I have a friend who went to one of those. She thought it was fun. And I feel like for the most part, the things you do on campus, it's just depends on what your friend group is doing or what the activities you're in, what they have going on. Um, and sometimes they'll have like bigger events. Like one time for Diwali in fall quarter, they had like a huge thing with some dancing. So I went to that. That was fun.
Nice. That kind of brings me to the next question, which is like, how ethnically like diverse is the campus?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think it's pretty diverse. Like there are a lot of people from different backgrounds. There, like to some extent, I feel like this is kind of true in general. If there are a lot of people from a particular background, they kind of like self-segregate. But I feel like overall, people are very willing to meet all sorts of people, and one of the best ways to do that, in my opinion, is just by joining activities where there are lots of people from different places. Like one of the things I'm part of, has um, it has a lot of it's like a global health club, but it has a lot of people from a lot of different majors too, and from different places. Um, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Would you describe the campus as pretty lively most of the time, or like on a Wednesday night, is it like dead, or people just studying, or where are people?
So I think it's pretty lively most of the time. Like no matter what time you go on campus, there will definitely be someone there. That's another thing that surprised me. People do things really late. Yeah. So, I mean, certain certain times of the day definitely aren't going to be as lively. Like if you wake up at 7 a.m. and go outside, that's one thing I really enjoy actually, because, with all the hustle and bustle of like so many people on one campus, it's kind of hard to find that time where there isn't a lot of people walking around you. So I like waking up earlier for that reason, in partially at least. And I guess certain weeks are a lot more livelier than others too. So in weeks 1 to 3-ish, before midterms have really started coming, there will be a lot more going on than weeks 4 to 7, I'd say.
What's the party scene like? You talked a little bit about it earlier in the video, but is like frat culture really prominent, or are there a lot of people that join frats and things like that?
Yeah, so there are frat parties like every week. And I'd say parties, if you want to go to them, then there will definitely be something for you from Thursday to Saturday. And but other than frat parties, there are also lots of clubs hold parties. Like my roommate has been to a lot of the Indian dance teams parties, so she talks about those sometimes. And then like the clubs I'm a part of, they're kind of smaller, so our socials, I guess, are parties. But it's like I like them more because you kind of know everyone there, and it's just in a smaller setting. And then of course you can just do things with your friends.
Are there often large campus-wide events?
Um, I'd say the first few weeks of fall quarter, I really felt that. Like there was the Bruin Bash I mentioned. There was, oh yeah, in I think for before the UCLA USC game, there was this big carnival, and so they had performances there. They had a Ferris wheel, um, things like that. And then I know in spring quarter, which we don't have, but there was supposed to be something called Spring Sing. So that would just be like a little festival where all the groups perform. And then all the sports games are also another big one. So like gymnastics meets, those are super cool and they're free for all students. And basketball games are also really fun.
Who won the game this year?
For UCLA versus USC?
Yeah.
USC. Apparently we're not very good at football.
Really?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
thought
know.
UCLA was really good at sports,
Yeah,
but
I thought
apparently
that's
not. Or they're not good at the sports that matter. Like, how people care a lot about football and basketball? Yeah, they're apparently
Wait, they're
not that
not
good
good
at
at
that.
basketball? Oh,
They used to be really good at basketball
yeah,
before,
okay.
but I think right now they're like, okay. I went to the
Okay.
UCLA and Cal basketball game, and they won there. So,
Nice.
yeah, but they're good
All
at a
right.
lot of other sports. Like, they're really good at gymnastics. And, there are a lot more sports besides football and basketball, so they're probably good at those things.
Nice. How safe is the campus and even like surrounding area? Do you feel like it's like say, do you feel safe walking alone at like night or early morning? And are there like services for people who don't really feel safe with like an escort or some sort of transportation service?
Yeah, so I feel like it's a really safe area of LA overall. It can be quiet at times, but there are always like people around, and it's just a nice neighborhood. Um, and there are services for if like people ever feel unsafe. They went over all that at orientation, and so I don't completely remember all of them, but I think I have a few apps on my phone just in case.
Anything else, Sean?
No, I think we can move on.
I think so too. All right. We already kind of talked about this, but this is like academic and like emotional or like counseling or support systems that UCLA offers. So we talked about like getting help at office hours from professors. Is there like an academic center or things like that for tutoring or essay like revision, things like that?
Yeah, so I think there's an undergraduate writing center that can help with any essay for any class. I think you can walk into some of the workshops they have or hours they have and just get help immediately or set up an appointment. And then other than that, I feel like for the most part, it's every class kind of has their own system. Um, and some clubs offer a lot of tutoring support. Like I know there's one club, I don't know much about them, but it's for like life sciences students, and they have tutoring and you just like sign up. Oh, I didn't mention this before, but I think there's another club too that offers mentoring for research. So if you're really struggling to get research, you can like request a mentor and who has gone through the process and stuff, and maybe see if that helps.
Do you feel like that the academic center that you talk about is like effective, or is that a resource that you use, or do you tend to lean more towards like class-specific resources like office hours and things like that?
Yeah, so I've never used the undergraduate writing center that I mentioned, but I have used like the class-specific resources. And I think one of the most helpful things is just the review sessions they have before midterms and finals. Like some of the, like for chemistry, for example, there's this one learning assistant who's a senior right now who's just really good at teaching chemistry. Like he just literally everyone from the professor's 3 classes. So I don't know, maybe 750 people just kind of go to his sessions and they're very helpful.
Wow. Man, is that person planning to pursue a degree in chemistry? Do you know? Like a graduate degree in
I
chemistry?
think he's some sort of life sciences major, but I have no idea.
Wow, 700. So like TAs hold really big review sessions then, like 750 people show up. Wow.
Well, I mean, I don't really, I think, I don't know the exact numbers because, you know, it is in a particular building and buildings have capacity. But I remember at one of his review sessions, people had to sit on the stairs.
Wow. What's the largest like class you've been in? Like that can be like at an office hour, like you mentioned, or like a lecture. What's the largest size?
Yeah, so the largest lecture I've been in is maybe 300-ish people, maybe a little less than that. But on average, I'd say 200 for prereqs. And the smallest lecture I've been in is maybe like 70 to 90 people.
Okay. In terms of career counseling, like you mentioned, you're on the pre-med track. So is there like health professions advising on campus that kind of helps you? I mean, not yet, but like with the application process, with the MCAT, with extracurriculars and things like that.
Yeah, so there's like a whole pre-health at UCLA advising organization. And I think I went to one of their presentations once. It was pretty good. And they have lots of things going on. Like I'm sure I'll use them eventually more once I get older. But as for now, I just get emails from them about stuff. And they have a lot of resources. But I'd say it's not going to be very personalized for you. Like there isn't going to be one person in the advising organization that's like dedicated to helping you and like knowing everything about you and your goals and stuff like that.
We can move on.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I think we can move on.
All right. Extracurricular activities. So we already also kind of touched upon this in some of the older categories, but what are some popular clubs on campus, or what are some activities that people tend to do in their free time?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can pinpoint popular clubs exactly because there are just so many and like so many students that it really varies. But I think some that are pretty big is the newspaper, the Daily Bruin, has like a lot of different teams that people are a part of. I've heard that there's like 5 campus cults that have like hundreds of people in each of them. I'm not part of any of them, but I think the Student Alumni Association is one of them. So they organize dinner for 12 strangers. That's all I know about them. But I went to that. I guess I'll talk about that now since it just popped into my head. But basically, it's like one of the campus traditions, and you just fill out a quick form online, and then they bring, based on your interests, they like bring together 12 people who are total strangers at an UCLA alumni's house or apartment, and then they make food for you, and then you just talk about UCLA.
Wow, that's
And
cool.
then, yeah. And then going back to clubs, some other things that people are pretty involved in, like in general, would be like club sports, dance teams, a cappella.
Is it hard to do clubs?
Yeah, so it depends on the club. I feel like there are a lot of clubs that are pretty hard to get into. Like in my experience, I remember I got rejected from the first club I applied to, but like all of them kind of was in the same period. So then I got into the next 3, and then I eventually picked 2. But yeah, I feel like it can be like, this isn't something that's talked about a lot probably, but it can be a little demotivating if you come into college and you want to like do all these activities, and then you realize that there's a giant application for each of them, and you have to really think about what you actually want to apply to. Like that was also one of the most surprising things to me when I came to college, because I thought that they would give us a little time to adjust and stuff, but the enormous activities fair where you learn about all the clubs was in not even week 1, but week 0. And so then you go there, and I remember it was really hot too, so that added to the overwhelmingness of it. And then you just get shoved a bunch of flyers and stuff and talk to a million people about a million clubs. And then I went back and then looked through all the flyers, looked at all the websites. Because the thing is, it wasn't just about what the club does. Because I feel like in college, a lot of the social life is also a little bit centered around the activities you join. So it was also like judging what community I felt like was right for me. So that can be, it's like definitely something you have to think about a lot and like really look through and think about what exactly you want to spend time applying for and like what's worth it to you.
What types of clubs are generally really competitive to get into?
Yeah, so I guess the most popular like pre-professional clubs probably, like the pre-med clubs that advertise that they'll give you shadowing hours and great opportunities. Those ones probably. The consulting clubs, those probably are pretty competitive. Probably some of the engineering clubs too. Yeah, because
So
like
what does the application? Oh, no, sorry, go for it. Go for it.
I was just gonna say like with the number of clubs there, it you really need to judge what exactly is worth it because like with the number of clubs there are a lot of clubs that do pretty great things, do a lot of things, are really active, and then there are some clubs that just aren't quite there. And so like even if they advertise themselves as like a topic you're interested in, you before you like commit yourself to a just like the topic you're interested in, you need to look into what that club exactly has to offer and if they're like serious about it.
What does the application look like? Is it like essays and an interview, or like what is it?
Yeah, so for the most part, it is what you said, essays and interview. Um, I guess some might have you like write about your past activities and what you did in high school, or if you're applying as like a second or third year, what you did in the previous years. But yeah, mostly just application and interview.
Cool. All right, Sean, ready? Last section.
Last section.
All right, so this is kind of like a conclusion. So what would you say is the best thing at UCLA for you? And what's the worst thing about UCLA on the other hand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the best thing is just all the opportunities there are. Like even though it is a big school and it can seem like there's not enough for all the people who want to do certain things, like there really are a lot of opportunities if you look, and no matter what you're interested in, there is like some avenue for you to pursue that. So I really like that. And the worst thing, I think enrollment is a pretty big one. Enrollment sucks. It's like they give you a random time and you either get lucky or unlucky. And like I remember for winter quarter, I got a pretty bad enrollment time. It was like 9:30 p.m. on the last day. And so I changed my schedule around the last moment. But also like it always ends up working out. Like no matter, like if you don't end up getting the classes you want to take a particular quarter, it doesn't matter too much because there are definitely other classes you can take instead. And I guess another thing is it's not always super guiding. Like it can be confusing for some people if you like don't really know where to start. Like for example, if you're looking at class enrollment and you haven't heard of things like the College Academic Counseling Center, or if you're trying to find research but you don't really know where to start with that either, it can probably be confusing.
Have you heard of people not getting their core classes? Because like chemistry is a sequence, right? So if you don't get chemistry one quarter, that kind of puts you behind pretty significantly.
I guess yeah, probably, but for the most part, people do get their core classes. Like there's probably just an unlucky few who don't, but also if you are one of the unlucky few who don't, there is always another core class you can take instead. So like I know if someone wasn't able to get chemistry for their first quarter, they can just take the biology series instead. So while they may be one quarter behind in chemistry, then they're one quarter ahead of everyone else in biology. So yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about creating a pro-con list for UCLA. Do you think you could run us through that real quick?
Yeah, so I guess pros. So one was the in-state tuition for me, and another pro was like all the opportunities there. It's a really big research school, and that was something I was interested in doing eventually. And since I'm pre-med, I wrote some of those related pros. So like for example, UCLA has a medical school on campus with a lot of opportunities for undergrads to get involved. Another pro I wrote was just like the general vibe and area of that it was located in. I liked that. And then some of the cons I remember thinking of was like just the size of the school and like how big the classes are. And before I went in with like the notion that grade deflation was probably a thing. And so that was one. Let me think. Yeah, I guess all the things that have to do with size. So like because of the size of it, enrollment can be hard. Joining the things you want exactly, like it's not going to be super straightforward. It definitely takes a lot of personal initiative.
So what type of student should attend your school, and what type of student do you think should not attend?
So I guess someone who's open to being flexible and um, excited to take initiative, I guess, and like confident in their abilities to kind of guide themselves and like put themselves out there and like reach out to other people and ask for help if they need it. Um, should not attend. I mean, I don't want to put a label on it or anything because I think everyone, if they come here, like they'll find a way eventually, even if it's hard in certain aspects and takes some getting used to. I feel like there is potential for everyone to succeed and like it.
Okay.
Did you have any expectations going into UCLA that once you were there, it did not meet?
Yeah, so I guess one of the expectations I had was that I would be taking all these cool classes and really expanding my mind to things I haven't learned about before. But apparently, chemistry and biology are not that exciting compared to like high school. Like it's pretty similar, pretty standard. Um, and so yeah, I wouldn't say I really. Oh, and also like I imagine discussion sections to be a lot more discussion based. Yeah, that's not true apparently. So I mean, we'll get there eventually in like second, third, fourth year. And there are ways to uh, like really learn what you're more excited about, like the Fiat Lux classes, the 1 unit ones I mentioned. That's a pretty great way to get some discussion going. Um, but yeah, overall, I feel like I've gotten a lot of opportunities for my study habits to improve and like understanding of deep material, but not as many opportunities for like talking about what I'm learning about.
Is there anything you wish you knew before going to UCLA?
I think I guess what I wish I knew is that there is a lot of things here to do. And it really helps to kind of narrow down your focus a bit and not try to do everything. I mean, I don't think I've exactly had the experience of trying to do everything. I feel like I was pretty clear that that was one thing I didn't want to spread myself too thin. But it is good to know that good to think about before you go to UCLA what exactly you want from it, I guess.
Cool. Any other like concluding thoughts or anything else you wanted to add that you didn't get a chance to add in the interview?
Yeah, so I guess one thing I'd like to say is I feel like or at least in my experience, I feel like there's been a really good balance of things at UCLA for first years at least. I don't know about the future, but you can really make it as um, you make it as much as you what am I trying to say? You can make it as balanced for yourself and like cater to yourself as much as you want to. So I think work-life balance and like balance with social life and stuff like that is pretty good. And like at some points it can be overwhelming, but yeah, it really depends on you how much you take on at one time. So like that whole thing that I mentioned about people really taking their own pace with things, I really like that about UCLA. I feel like people aren't really pressured to do everything that their peers are doing, and they go at their own pace, and they eventually end up doing what they want to do. And another thing I didn't really get to mention was how the quarter system plays into things. Um, so it is pretty fast. Like you have midterms maybe from week 4 to 7 or 8. Like I remember last quarter I had one midterm every single week from week 4 to 8. But also that depends on the classes you take. So like some people have it more spread out, or like a lot one week and then nothing for a few weeks. And the quarter system really does drive a lot of things. Like people refer to every week as like week numbers. So like I don't think about January like 10th as January 10th. I think of it as week 2. um, but yeah, the quarter system, another nice thing about it is you can take a lot more classes and like change up the variety a little. But yeah, it can be fast.
You think overall you like quarter system more than semester? Or I mean, you haven't really experienced semester, but do you like the decision that you made to go to a quarter school?
I feel like I'm pretty neutral about it overall. I feel like it probably would have been fine either way. There are some things I like about both though. Like semester system people, their winter break is so much nicer, and their summer break is so much nicer. Like I hate quarter system breaks, like the scheduling of it. Except for
Wait,
spring
summer
break.
break
Spring
is
break is
better.
good. Summer break, it's just so unnecessarily long. Like why don't they just take a few of those weeks and add it to winter?
How
Yeah.
long is the
For
summer break?
This year, I think it was supposed to be from June 15th to October 1st.
How many weeks is that?
It's like a 4-month break, Sean.
That's a whole lot of weeks.
Oh yeah. My break's
And
like
then
14 weeks though. I think my break is 14. So it's not like that much longer.
yeah, it isn't, but also the timing when we start and end is just kind of odd.
It's just odd, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
True. All right, anything else to add, Sean?
Well, this is kind of random, but like, what do you usually do for fun at UCLA?
Ooh, okay. I think on a daily basis, like stuff I would do every day would just be running with my friends. Eating at the dining hall is a big one for I think everyone who lives on the hill. Studying together, I think that's pretty nice. Like that's pretty unique to college. And yeah, just sometimes like the clubs I'm in will have random activities during the week. Like for example, one of them did Secret Santa on a Tuesday. And then when it comes to like more weekly stuff, like I think I usually do at least one fun thing every weekend. So for example, maybe going to Santa Monica and having a picnic or watching a movie or going somewhere else. Like there's a lot to explore, which is nice. Like if you want to be more low key and stay on campus and just do things like movie nights and go to restaurants and stuff like that. There's that. If you want to, I don't know. I have one friend who I haven't been, but she says there's this karaoke club she goes to. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Cool. I think that's all that we have. So thank you so much for giving us your time. It was actually really fun. It was a way for us to kind of...
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any other questions that you want us to ask, don't be afraid to drop it down in the comment section below.